Hello, distinguished guests. My team, Forever Young, from Sankhampaeng School, Chiang Mai Province. And what we would like to do is to work on the Sankhampaeng Silk Project, and this is considered a textile cultural heritage. And for the textile, the silk textile weaving in Sankhampaeng, we have a very long historical background. So it's been passed on for generations. What we used to do is we used to use a specific weaving to weave the textile, and it used to be made to be used among the family before it was commercialized. And you can divide into three specific points. The first identity is the patterns, and you can see in the images, you can see the Pamai Lai Sankhampaeng, the Sankhampaeng silk textile has a very unique characteristic, which is you can see the patterns are horizontal, and then you can see the colors. They switch between the light and the dark and the light and the dark colors. And back in the days, they used to use all the silk textile to wash with some substance to make sure that the color stands out and it's light and it shines. And for silk, it's very small in size. And a lot of people used to define that actually it's the smallest silk in Thailand. So you can see it reflects actually a lot of the historical significance and the culture back in the days. And secondly, Sankhampaeng and silk textile, even the Miss Universe also wears it. Gunapasara Hongsukun, she wears it on stage during her Miss Universe beauty pageant. And that year, our Miss Universe, Gunapasara Hongsukun, also received the National Costume Award of her year, which also increases the significance, and it also bring the world's attention to the silk we have in Sankhampaeng. And also her late Majesty the Queen Mom also attended and also observed and learned, and she was very curious, interested in Sankhampaeng silk because it has its own specific characteristics, the size, the small delicacy, and therefore she had adopted to use this. And then at some point it became the national costume, and you can see that from that we go to the Sankhampaeng, Chiang Mai, and then so therefore I would like to explain, and I would like to tell you a little bit on the background. And back in the days in the agricultural side, King Bhumibol had created this reservoir and brought fertility and a lot of growth and fertility to agricultural, and therefore the community adopted a lot of things, and especially agricultural in terms of textile weaving. Growing silk was also one of the things that was adopted. This knowledge was passed on for generations, and there were a lot of really local wisdoms. For example, Mary Jaiwong, and she leads the local association on the textile weaving in Sankhampaeng. The community themselves also gathered and became collectives to ensure that the knowledge of the traditional weaving is passed on. And currently, there are still a lot of the traditions and customs that have been passed to the next generation. And you often see that actually it's usually the elderly who are still weaving, and therefore they had collectively got together, set up a little association, and when they make it, and if they would fail to sell it in the future, it is also very likely that this tradition would be stopped. And therefore, passing on this tradition, it's important. And we don't want it to disappear in the future. We also sustain it. Next slide, please. And the community we talk to, we We have one of the main objectives. We have two main objectives. The first one is to ensure that the intangible cultural heritage is safeguarded, and we also want to bring and also introduce new products and new designs on Sankhampaeng silk, and also to bring the interests and also to encourage more people to be part of the textile. And the process are as follow. The first one is community outreach. So once we have engaged inside the community, we have found out that a lot of the challenges that they face is the weaver consists of their elderly. And so therefore the total community of weavers keeps on reducing. And so therefore we want to use the new technologies and new innovations to promote the community activities by, firstly, we're going to try to redesign and bring in new designs to the existing textile. And secondly, we want to use QR code to explain the background of the product and the story, the narratives of the product to increase the value. And thirdly, we want to create a video clip and a website to introduce the products. And then we also want to conduct training, especially for the youth and the adolescents inside the community. So we planned the budget allocation at 30,000 baht for the 3 months time frame. And we hope that the outcome would create sustainability and that the weaving would be community. And so the expected outcomes can be divided into 3 areas as follow. The first one is in terms of social. The community would be able to safeguard, and then as the culture of the weaving of the Sankhampaeng silk, and secondly, economics. And so we want to increase the income generating activities. And then we also, thirdly, we want to see the environmental sustainability factor, making sure that all the resources are used to the most extent. And for community participation, it can be divided into 5 parts. The first part of engagement would be the community leaders. So these are our key facilitators. Secondly is the leader of the weaving groups. And also they would be able to reflect to us the challenges that people in the community face. Thirdly, community members. So we also need their participation as part of the activities that we're going to conduct. And fourth, youth and children. So this is the key group, because we believe that they're going to be the one who also safeguard this and pass it along the next generation. And the number 5, educational schools and educational facilities. So they are going to be the one who maintain the body of knowledge and pass it on to others. And we think that this would be the model that would contribute greatly to the community and also to safeguard this our cultural heritage. So thank you so much, On-tai team. And for the commentators, I would like to invite Kun Chitchandra Marshalline to provide the comments, please. Thank you.
Thanks again. And I would like to just build on what I said before, in that what you are doing is not something that should die very quickly. Just to give you a couple of pointers in terms of my experience, and also with what I believe you should focus on if you think of making a sustainable tradition that can attract young and old as well. Again, Karen culture, Karen heritage, living heritage of textiles is absolutely wonderful to see, and it is intellectual property in its truest sense. What I do see the threats is when you talk of silk, adulteration from viscose coming from other places. Now, if you are growing it and if you're showing it to the world that it is yours and truly grown in the region, that's fantastic. The other threat that I've seen is polycotton, and I'm not sure the presentation didn't touch on the actual raw materials, but these are issues that come into quality. And again, I can only say to you that if you focus on quality, however difficult, you should be able to secure and have a good market for the products. One last aspect is, yes, design is very critical, and new design is fantastic to see. But as you know, for any product to succeed, any industry or any craft to succeed, you need a market. And I would only say to you again, I said it in the first comment, try to focus on the process, because the process of what you do is also extremely unique, not just the motif and the final design.
ขอบคุณค่ะคุณชิทันดราค่ะท่านต่อไปค่ะขอเรียนเชิญคุณเคลินนะคะจาก UNDP ค่ะ
Thank you so much. Very, very interesting project. And I like that how you are trying to bring in the youth design and, trying to make it young people friendly and combining, working together with the senior community members. I really love that part. So I think from my perspective, it's really, I see it as a project with a potential social enterprise model. So a few things I want to run through you. If you already think about it, just make it as like a checklist. If not, maybe something for you to think about in the future, right? So I think for you, your project, you're doing product development, which means that you're designing the the new pattern of the clothes, etc., etc. So you're doing product development. In this process, you need a group of people to test your new products, right? Because you want to make sure that this is welcomed by your potential customers and buyers. So you have to do these two things. And then once you have a good products, you also need to identify, where to reach to your biggest market. So you need people who can do marketing, can do packaging, and also at the same time that you need to identify your best potential group of users as well. So once you've done that, so where are the channels that they can be able to purchase your products? Are they mostly through social media, through internet, or are you bringing them to a shop? I really like the perspective that there's going to be QR code in the on the clothes, so people actually get to read about those products, right? Because I know that there's some good social enterprise in Bangkok. Actually, in the restaurant, in each dish, there's a QR code for people to read about the stories of the farmers, people who supply those raw material. So I think that's a very nice way to engage with your customers. But how are you going to exhibit your product? So are you going to some of the markets, some of the weekend exhibition? So where is your go-to place so that you make the impression to the market that here we come. So those are the few things that on the top of my head. I want to just see whether you've already thought about it, and if not, this could be your checklist for moving forward. So thank you.
ขอบคุณค่ะคุณเคลินมีประโยชน์มากสำหรับน้องนะคะ2ท่านแรกนะคะ
Thank you so much, Kaylin. That was very useful. And the last one, I would like to, the last commentator, I would like to invite Ms. Julia Kim Davies from British Council, please.
Hi, thank you. I felt your response to safeguarding the Sankhampaeng cultural heritage was a very holistic approach that you offered, so you looked at the social, the economic, and the environmental. So I think having that kind of triple bottom line approach is really very valuable. So I think it's good that you considered it in all of those dimensions. A few other points. I would like to know a little bit more. You mentioned about a training program for youth. I was quite curious to get a little bit more information about what that training program would entail. What would that look like? What are you training the youth on? Is it on the technical skills of the weaving? Is it training youth on more garment, the fashion side of it? Just a bit curious about that. And also maybe just a consideration on the relationship and the involvement of designers and artisans, and what the relationship and the role and how a designer could support potentially in this project, and maybe upskilling some of the artisans in that product development phase. It reminds me of a project that we at the British Council were running in supporting the Thai weaving. So there was kind of a lot of resonance to listening to your project and your presentation. So yeah, I'd like to unpick a little bit more on the training aspect that you mentioned, because that's the first time I've heard about training. So thank you.
So for the training, our team would focus, we think there is the importance in trying to build on top of something that's already existing. And we think that a lot of them disappear. And therefore we think that the most important players are the youth. And so therefore we want to create some kind of workshop. That's the idea that we have. So the youth, the adolescents, the children, that will be our main target. And we want them to know, that this is in their community, and we want to give them that opportunity to do it, to practice it, to learn how to make it, because a lot of them, the grandparents already doing it, but they never get a chance to. So if they themselves get to try that, they would come to the realization that this is also a very important cultural heritage, and they would be the ones who talk about it, who pass it on to people that know, their peers at school, for example. And these would be the ones who are going to be playing a very crucial role in safeguarding it. And these youth and the children, they always have new innovations, and they will know creative ways, right, to share and to disseminate informations about this. For example, QR code or clip videos, and these are the new technologies and innovations that's coming out from the youth. So therefore, besides having the workshop about learning about the technical sides of the textiles and designs, it's also going to include an element of creating PR materials and communications material, or this kind of innovative ways of disseminating their products. And that's roughly what we were thinking about.